And like, it was one of those things where it was like, yes, I'm living with you and people think you're my wife and that your children are my children. And that's wonderful. But I'm still not gonna divorce my wife because of whatever reasons. I don't know if it was because of money or property or whatever the case may be. One of those things where it was just like, oh, I don't want to leave. Like it is what it is, and I don't have to leave her to like be with you, kind of thing. Like I don't really know like all the minutia of that whole relationship, but at the end of the day, I guess my mom was just like she wanted more out of, and they split up. But they remained really good friends regardless of it all. To the point that when my mom even got remarried, like he was still very active in our lives. He was respectful, however, of my mother's marriage. So like he didn't come in the house and like talk to my mom's new husband or my stepfather. Like he didn't do any of that. But like he had my phone. Like I got my first phone from him. Like I was on his plan, So like we shared a phone bill, and he would pick me up from school sometimes and like drop me off to school sometimes. So like we were still very much connected, and I knew my stepfather didn't like it because I remember one time we were talking about Sanddaddy, and he came out his face and was like, "That's not your father." That's not your father. You have a father. That's not your father. And I had to look at this grown ass man and say, excuse me, my father isn't my father. My father my father can be my father, but he's not my dad. And there's a difference. Like I don't need, blood to have a dad. That Negro doesn't have to be related to me by blood to be my dad. So mind your fucking business, basically. And he had his own issues too, because like he had kids, but he also, the kids that he had were not by his ex-wife. Like they were by his mistress. He had children with his mistress while he was married, and so I'm like, put your hypocritical shit right now. Like go have several seats. But the West Indian way, right? Like you don't have to be married with somebody to like be with them. Like you don't have to do that. You can be estranged and do your dirt and do your shit and be happy. So that was that whole thing. But yeah, I think as I was getting older and I started like really seeing the nature of their relationship, I was just like, I wasn't feeling it, because at the end of the day, granted, this man was a dad to me. Like I said, he was not my dad. And at the same time, I had to share him with other people. And it wasn't even like I had to share him fairly. It was like I had to share him in the dark. And I think as I got older, like I started to resent that, the fact that like this person who was like a father to me or was like a dad to me all my life, was my dad in the shadows in a way. Because I remember like being at his furniture store and everything like that, and like people coming in and like seeing me and like, who's that? He's like, oh, that's my daughter. That's my child. Like, leave my daughter alone. Don't talk to my kid like that. Or, well, not don't talk to my kid like that, because nobody ever thought to be slick to talk to me like that or whatever. But yeah, like he used to look out for me, because in addition to me being in his furniture store, like when he had a store, many years later when I was in college, like he got me a job at the furniture store where he worked. And so people there used to ask me like, is that your dad? Is that your dad? And I'd be like, yeah. Because he told people flat out, yeah, I'm bringing my daughter, my daughter's going to come and work with me, and she's going to work with us here, and she's really good. She's really smart, blah, blah, blah. And he got me this job. And I had one coworker who was just like, is that really your dad though? Or do you just call him your dad? And I was like, I just call him my dad. I was like, that's my mom's ex-boyfriend. And he's like, oh, because at this time my mother was remarried when I was working with Sanddaddy at the new store that he was working at. Yeah, she had been remarried by this time. So Yeah, and it was just really weird because it was also kind of like, what if his wife like rolled up in the store to like buy furniture and shit, and like people were calling me his daughter in front of her. I feel like some shit like that happened too. Like someone came in there and told them like, oh, oh, his daughter works here, and they were like, whose daughter works here? It was like a awkward kind of thing. Or my mom came into the store and they would tell him like, oh, your wife showed up, and he's like, what? And I'd have to be like, mommy, mom, like, oh, okay, like it was really funky. um and like I said, I think that turned the tide for me, where it was just like, I appreciate you for being my dad when you were my dad, but I have to ultimately understand and recognize that you're not my dad. Like you're not my dad. I have to share you with other people, and it's not fair, you know. Um, and so I look to that, like, when I made this post yesterday, I said Happy Father's Day to all those people who are being a guiding light to those in their life, whether they are their blood or not, whether you're related or not. Because there are multiple ways that you can be a father, You have cousins, older cousins raising younger cousins. You have uncles being dads to nieces. You have grandfathers being fathers to grandchildren. You have older friends being father figures to, the children of their friends and stuff like that. And so it's a beautiful thing. And I would knock it, and I would never not give a dad credit where it's due, because let's face it, we big the fuck up out of Mother's Day. Like, Mother's Day, blah, 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 bloop, bloop, bloop. And we don't do the same for Father's Day. Arguably, it's because, as my sister likes to say, mother's baby, father's maybe, right? Where it's like, if you birth a child as a mother, like that's your ass, like that's your child, you can't tell the state, like, don't put my name on the birth certificate. Like, you can't do that, what do you mean? It just came out your cooch. Like, nah. Like, I gotta take a DNA test. I don't know if that's mine. Like, but I just saw it come out your vagina. We don't know that. Alternative facts. So we pick the fuck about Mother's Day, but not so much Father's Day, because we have a lot of people out here who are not really being dads to their children. My father, case in point. But at the end of the day, to tie it all home and to bring it back to the name of the show, it takes a real adult to be a dad. It takes a real adult to be a dad, especially to be a dad to a child that's not yours. To be in a family that you can only be in part-time, if it is part-time. It takes a real adult man, right? To be a dad. And that's why as I'm speaking, I'm doing my best to not make father and dad interchangeable, because to me there is a clear distinction. Anyone can be a father, anyone can father a child, but it takes a real adult to be a man and a dad. It takes a real adult man, a real adult male to be a dad. And I understand the whole concept of, like, the mother who got to be mother and father for child. Like, mother and father. Like my mother will tell you till she's blue in the face, I had to be mother and father for you guys. And kudos to you, and happy Father's Day to you too, mommy. Like, go ahead. But at the same time, you're my mother. You were a mom who had to fulfill the role of the dad, but you're not my dad. You're not my father. I have a father. But yeah, so with all of that being said, this is my happy belated Father's Day message to you all out there. Happy Father's Day to those who are guiding light, to the children in their lives who are there to support and protect the people around them, the younger people around them, because typically, you can be a dad. To be a dad, you gotta be slightly older, just a little bit. You can't be 5 and be a dad to somebody who's like 3. So for being a protector, for being a supporter, for those in your life who, their fathers weren't there and you stepped up to be a dad. So happy Daddy's Day to you all. Not Father's Day. Fuck Father's Day. Happy Daddy's Day to you all, and being the true definition of that person. And to those of you out there who are estranged from your dads, your fathers, like me. I'm kind of estranged from my dad too. Like, I don't really talk to him as much as I used to. And again, like I said, it's just me knowing the nature of the relationship, and I still respect him, and I still love him. I still respect him. I still love him, but happy Daddy's Day to him too. He's also not in the country anymore, so it's kind of hard to keep in contact with him. He's like living overseas, and that's a different story. But yeah, to those of you who have dads, I envy you. Take care of your dads. Love them. Protect them. They've been protecting you all your life. Make sure you take good care of them. Continue to hold on to them. Allow them to continue being a protector, even as they get old and gray and their bones get weak and feeble. Show them that you love them and that you appreciate them, because not everyone can have a dad. Again, anyone can father a child. Not everyone can get a dad. It takes a really special kind of man to be a dad. So if you have one, appreciate him. And if you've lost one, keep his memory. Keep his memory alive. Continue to love him. And, put that love out there into the universe, because he's feeling it. He's going to feel it. And with that, I'm going to bid you all adieu on this long-awaited episode of Fifi After Dark. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for listening and tuning in. We are 1000% sorry for not having content sooner, but I'm going to crack the whip on these hair co-hosts I have, and make sure that we have new content. And I've also been in the process of speaking with a couple other really cool, really talented people who are just as eager to jump on the show and chat with us about a plethora of things. So stay tuned for that. Please don't lose interest. We're here. We love you. We hear you. We've just been really busy, but we're going to come back, and we're going to come back with the fire of 1,000 suns, or the fury of an MTA bus driver. Same shit. But yes, please make sure to like, listen, subscribe, and share the Adultish podcast. We're on most streaming platforms. We're on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on Twitter at AdultishP0DCAST, as well as on IG at AdultishP0DCAST. And you can find me, Afiya, on the Instagram at LAJA0214. And you can follow me on the Twitter at La Jolie Poeta. That's LAJOLIEPOETA. If you have any feels, any comments, any questions, concerns, inquiries, if you just want to say, Afiya, you suck, go ahead and do so by emailing us at adultish@digidiznet.com. That's adultish at